Hand over to the Honorable Premier, who is going to take us through the statement of today. Over to the Honorable Premier.
Thank you and greetings to you, Mr. Mabaso, the members of the Provincial Executive Council, the Director General of the province, ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow South Africans. We've just came out of a very painful and sad meeting of the Provincial Executive Council. The meeting was convened urgently in the wake of the devastating news of the passing of His Majesty, King Goodwill Zwelithini Kabhekuzulu this morning. On behalf of the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Government, we wish to convey our most heartfelt condolences to the Zulu Royal House family, the Zulu Royal family, the Zulu Nation, the people of KwaZulu-Natal, and South Africa as a whole. Indeed, the sun has set in broad daylight. Ilanga lishone emini, kwasibekela amafu esizweni. The news of His Majesty's passing has struck a deep note in our lives. Today we are a nation in sorrow, a nation in pain, and a nation in mourning. The passing on of our monarchy, who was our custodian for culture, a repository for all our customs and traditions, and an immutable symbol of unity, has dealt a devastating blow on the people of the province and is a seminal moment for our province. Even though we knew that the king was unwell, we had hoped that the king will recover and continue to lead us as our lodestar and the custodian of our way of life. His Majesty sadly departed in the early hours of this morning to the world beyond. The 12th of March 2021 has now encrypted itself as the historic and a painful day on which the sun set during the day in KwaZulu-Natal as our monarchy breathed his last. His Majesty may have made the transition to the new world, but our pain will be alleviated by the lasting legacy that our monarchy left for us. Death has robbed us, our Lord Star, who brightly lights the path to growth and development, made unity possible, and sought lasting prosperity for the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Our monarchy was our compass, pointing the way as a custodian of our culture and tradition, a repository for all our customs and tradition. The star that shone the brightest in the firmament of our universe has ceased to provide light to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. For 5 decades in South Africa's ever-changing socio-political and cultural landscape, our international renowned monarchy, Okandaba, ubhejane phuma esiqiwini, ungangezwe lakhe umdlokombane, uhlanga lomhlabathi, has been a constant, enduring, influential, and unshakable force for positive change, an ever-shining symbol of hope and unity. It is indeed an extraordinary burden that the fate and the mysterious forces of nature, which dictate the beginning and the ending of life, has placed on us to be the generation that bear the responsibility to announce something as heavy and heartbreaking as the demise of our beloved monarchy. We have lost the father and the pillar of our nation, who placed himself forward as our unique torchbearer during some of the most darkest times that the country ever seen. We've entered a period of profound sadness in the history of KwaZulu-Natal and indeed that of our country. His Majesty made history as the longest serving amongst the kings of the Zulu nation, but also presided over this nation during some of the most tumultuous and difficult period in our history. His Majesty played a key role in the consolidation of the post-apartheid South Africa into a democracy which recognized the diversity of our people and will be remembered for his role as an apolitical, non-partisan, and uniting monarchy above the different political parties which contested political power. His Majesty the King occupied the Zulu throne during a very difficult period in the politics of KwaZulu-Natal when violence and conflict among his subjects resulted in the death of thousands of the people. He was integral to the peace effort that saw the ANC and the IFP put aside their differences to work together to bring about a better life for all the people of KwaZulu-Natal. The subsequent mutual respect for the institution of Zulu monarchy was a direct result of his approach to embrace all, irrespective of party affiliation. The sheer force and impact from the fall of our king has reverberated across the globe, causing earth turmoil for far and wide. This is evidenced by outpouring of grief and messages of sympathy that have been received from embassies and nations across the world. His Majesty departs at a time when we are still grappling with the devastating impact of COVID-19 and the looming spectra of fear for the third wave of the virus. He leaves our nation poor as he was one of its important leaders. His Majesty will be remembered as a champion of peace and stability in KwaZulu-Natal province, having led many initiatives that sought to achieve peace. The King also played a critical role and won the admiration of the world through the revival of cultural ceremonies and rituals such as Umkosi Womhlanga, which promoted moral regeneration and the medical male circumcision. We also salute His Majesty for having led the revival of the institutions of traditional leaders, presiding over the installation of Amakhosi. Those ceremonies were critical in defending society against the AIDS pandemic and many other diseases facing our nation. His Majesty has merely bowed down Isilo Sikotayame. His Majesty now enters the circle of eternity in which there is no death, but in which the monarchy joins the list of our beloved ancestors in the form of Mkabayi Kajama, Shaka Kasenza Ngakhona, and the long line of our royalty who have since departed. As KwaZulu-Natal provincial government, we wish to announce that the provincial government, through the Premier, has requested His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa to declare a state funeral for His Majesty the King. As the province, we declare this whole week as a week for mourning, meaning all government and private functions must be suspended. On Thursday, the 18th of March, we call for prayer service throughout the province of KwaZulu-Natal to pray for the Zulu nation following the passing of His Majesty. Government will be working and appoint the team of MECs, the Interministerial Committee, that will work with the Royal House in the preparations for all activities leading to the burial, Ukchalwa Kwesile. The office of the Premier, guided by the royal family, and the presidency will work and prepare logistics for the sending off of His Majesty. The provincial government will support and ensure adherence to all Level 1 regulations and COVID-19 health protocols. The provincial government will visit the Royal House tomorrow to offer its condolences. In this moment of immense sadness, we call on all people to remain calm and to mourn the passing of the monarchy in a dignified manner that His Majesty would have expected. This is the time to unite as the nation and give His Majesty the King a fitting farewell for his legacy and the legacy bestowed to him to ensure that he also contribute to the growth of our nation and our democracy. Let us all pray for the royal family and the Zulu nation and South Africa as a whole. I thank you.
Thank you very much, apologies to the colleagues online. We had a little bit of a glitch, but we corrected it. The statement the Premier has read, I'm going to just open quickly for any questions, but I think it should be a straightforward statement. Let me just check. ENCA, you want to ask something? Do I have any other hand? Yes, newsroom? News 24? Any other hand? Okay, let's take that round, and then we'll request to also summarize for us in that order, starting with ENCA.
So, Premier, we heard that the King was suffering from high glucose levels, but there's been news that he also suffered some COVID-19 complications. Can you confirm this?
Yes, colleague. Yes. Oh, okay. You recovered.
Thank you. Bonga Dulane from Newsroom Africa Premier. When you talk about the King's legacy, what do you think will be most remembered by? Because when a leader dies, there's always debate about his greatest contribution. So what do you think that is?
Thanks. Premier, it's Kavil from News 24. A pretty similar question, but there have also been a lot of statements about the King's contribution to our tourism. I mean, do you have any comments on that? What would you say was his sort of greatest contribution to KwaZulu-Natal in terms of that aspect? Thank you.
Okay. I think there's a final round of questions. We'll hand over to the Honourable Premier.
Thanks. May I start with the last two questions? I think His Majesty the King will be remembered for a number of his contributions that were very remarkable, and he showed that kind of being selfless. But one outstanding attribute is to manage and ensure a complementary role between government and the royal and the traditional leadership system. He managed to build link and work with us in a manner that respects government, but in a manner that also proved that traditional leaders and the democratic government can work together for development of the people and the citizens. It was a relationship not of competition at all. It was a complementary relationship, knowing his space and working accordingly, but as you will all attest, not also afraid of bringing views and counsel. The executive council give those suggestions, and sometimes you will come engage us and even public. But if you see it, you'll find that it's not a confrontational engagement, but it's a complementary approach. And I think in his legacy, we must salute how he contributed in ensuring that there is a promotion of traditional institutions within the democratic system and coexist with government. And I think that for me, it's outstanding. But obviously, 3 of his contributions that will remain with us is his role in building peace. Not only, he was always concerned about violence, not only political violence, but we as government have been working with him even to send people to mediate in hostels. Gauteng hostels, KwaZulu-Natal, he will be concerned and he will then say, let's have a joint approach. As we mourn in KwaZulu-Natal, I definitely know that the Gauteng government know him for his contribution in achieving peace in the various hostels in Gauteng. So that is the second. The third is the whole issue of social cohesion. And in that, we'll want to emphasize 2 elements: respect for culture and ensure that we build morals and moral values. And I think you will know of Umkhosi Womhlanga, and you will know of how we worked to ensure that we work together as stakeholders in ensuring that young boys are also nurtured. But more than that, respect for other races and ensure racial integration. His monarchy will celebrate Diwali. He will convene a ceremony to mark and celebrate Diwali. And that's how we would go to build bridges and address the issue of racial integration in the country. So the last one, he has crisscrossed the province, working with government in promoting education. He departed at a time where he had visited 9 districts together with MECs for education. 9 districts, and the outstanding 2 districts were Ugu and Herikwan. And there was a plan to do that, to complete that. So he has been someone who made not just a theoretical contribution, but he has been practical in his work. And that, I believe, satisfies the last 2 questions. The issue of tourism, of course, he has been very, very key in ensuring that we also use heritage to promote tourism. Heritage is key in tourism, and I must say that that aspect, when we were working in the whole issue of trying to stimulate South Africa-Britain tourism link, we used his stature to ensure that even Impia Sesandwana and the whole history is utilized to promote that. And that one of the contributions that made us to see having flights from Britain to here, the opening that direct route. But obviously, the issue of tourism is key. And I think the heritage approach, including heritage routes, it's important for us to grow the industry, even going forward. With regard to his sickness, I think it will be respectful for government to speak on its mandate and allow the Royal House to speak on the issues of the Royal House. So the whole issue of his sickness and everything will better be handled by the Royal House, and we are, in respect of that, we are humbling ourselves and requesting that you deal with that question with the relevant authority. Thank you. Mangqale ngokubingelela all MECs and members of the Executive Council, Director General Dr. Mkhize, ngibingelele kunina nonke boza kwethu bezezindaba. Namuhla siqeda umhlangano obukhulu kakhulu nolusizi kuthina njengohulumeni waKwaZulu Natal. Umhlangano obuyispecial wecabinet ohlalela abanyo MEC be physical bekhona la, abanyo MEC be connectile. Lo mhlangano siubize after ukuthola umbiko wokudlula emhlabeni wokukhothama ukangangezwe lakhe. Siyafisa egameni likahulumeni waKwaZulu Natal ukudlulisa amazwi enduduzo kwindlunkulu yonke kaZulu, isizwe sisonke samaZulu, ngokunjalo abantu bakwaZulu Natal bebonke neSouth Africa. Namuhla ilanga lishone emini kwasibekela amafu esizweni. Ukudlula kukangangezwe lakhe kusishiya sishayeke kakhulu, siyisizwe esidabukile, siyisizwe esisebuhlungwini, siyisizwe esizilile nesililayo. Siyazi ukuthi isilo bekuyena ngqala butho kumbe osihola phambili kuko konke okumayelana namasiko esizwe, kodwa futhi kuthina ube yisimbolo yawo wonke amasiko namagugu esizwe sakwaZulu. Ube uphawu lobunye kwisizwe. Ingakho ke isizwe sonke samaZulu nabantu bakwaZulu Natal bebonke beqemeke engeqiwa. Namuhla siyazi ukuthi noma ungangezwe lakhe ubese sibhedlela besinethemba lokuthi uzorecover abuyele asihole njengoba sazi ngokwempilo yethu. Ukudlula kwakheke kushaqisile kwaye kwashaqisa nomhlaba uwonke. Namuhla usuku lwanamuhla la ngomhla ka12 kuMarch luzibeke ngokubaluleka emlandweni. Ukubaluleka emlandweni okuza nobuhlungu ngoba ilanga lanamuhla lishone nokudlula nokukhothama kwengonyama. Siyazi futhi ukuthi ingonyama yilambu elisikhanyiselayo ukuthi amasiko ethu ayini, asifundise nokuthi siwagcina kanjani. Kodwa ngaphezulu lokho ube yilambu la sibonelela khona ukubambisana nokuhlalisana kwabantu nembono ehlukene, kodwa kuye babe abantu okudinga baphile ndawonye. Eminyakeni engaphezulu kwama-50 iKwaZulu Natal idlule eyintweni eziwushintsho eziningi, kungaba okomnotho, kungaba okwamasiko. Isilo samabandla sisebenze kuyo yonke leyo minyaka, sasebenza sahlonishwa umhlaba wonke. Ubhejane phuma esiqiwini ungangezwe lakhe, umdlokombane, uhlanga lomhlabathi. Siyazi ukuthi njalo la abekhona ubehlale egqugquzela ukuthi akube nenqubekela phambili. Sithi ke kudlule umuthi omkhulu, silahlekelwe yinsika yesizwe. Isikhathi esibhlungu esizweni sethu, isikhathi esibhlungu kuthina njengohulumeni. Njengohulumeni waKwaZulu Natal sifisa ukuthula lokho okulandelayo esikunqumile kulomhlangano izinto esizozenza ukuhlonipha ungangezwe lakhe. Okokuqala sizoxhumene nehhovisi likaPresident umongameli wezwe uPresident Cyril Ramaphosa ukuthi kusingathwe ukubekwa ukutshalwa kwesilo ngendlela yesithunzi ehambisana neye-state funeral. Okwesibili, sifisa ukuthi ke sazisa abantu beprovince ukuthi from now singena esigabeni sokulila la sizokwehlisa khona imisebenzi kahulumeni, kungabi nalama programs abamakhulu, kodwa imisebenzi kahulumeni eqhubekayo kube yile enika idingo kubantu, imicimbi imiswe okwesikhashana. Sicela ukuthi sisebenzise uLesine oluzayo lomhla ka-18 ukukhuleka kuzo zonke indawo throughout KwaZulu Natal, sikhulekela indlunkulu yethu nesizwe sonke samaZulu ngokudlula emhlabeni kwesilo samabandla. Sifisa futhi ukusho ukuthi sizoba nethimba elizosebenzisana liholwe indlunkulu kuwo wonke amalungiselelo azokwenziwa okutshalwa kwesilo. Ihhovisi likaNdunankulu ligayidwa indlunkulu ne-ofisi likaPresident. Sizosebenza kukho konke ukunikezela ukuphelezelwa nokutshalwa kwesilo ngendlela yosiko efanele. Njengohulumeni futhi sikwenza konke lokhu, sizobe siqhubekela ukuthi yonke imigomo ebekiwe yokuvikela isifo i-COVID-19 iyalandelwa. Siyathintana futhi sihlangene nabendlunkulu namuhla, kodwa sizoya kahle endlunkulu kusasa ekseni ukuyodlulisa amazwi enduduzo njengengxenye yesizwe. Siyazi ukuthi uZulu wonke ulahlekelwe, kepha sithi masihloniphe ubayede ngokuthi sizile, sikwazi ukuthi simnike inhlonipho efanele isithunzi negalelo lakhe ekusiholeni siyisizwe, size sifinyelele la siyosho ukuthi ubekwe ngendlela eyiyo, futhi silandela yonke imigomo even after that. Siyabonga.